How are you? Are you doing okay? Because I'm not. I'm joking, kind of joking. I'm feeling a little bit scared right now. In the northern hemisphere, autumn is creeping in. The leaves are starting to look a little bit rusty. And I think that's actually really great news for a lot of neurodivergent people. I did a poll on my community tab about which seasons autistic people prefer, and it seems that autumn, fall is very, very popular. And I do get it. To some extent, I am very excited to wear my seasonal outfits. You have been warned, the headbands, the Halloween earrings, it is all coming. However, I do, like many members of my family, suffer with some amount of seasonal depression. It seems to vary year on year, but last year it was pretty bad. I had a pretty significant dip in mood and everything just felt so much harder and heavier for quite a long time. I'm really hoping it doesn't happen again this year. However, I think what kind of exacerbated it last year was that I moved and now it's autumn, and guess what? We've recently moved again. Yay! Excellent, impeccable timing, Meg. You have set yourself up for success. That's sarcasm. And while I am glad that we did, it had to be done. I do think that this combination of huge life upheaval and then drop in temperature, drop in sunlight hours, it's not ideal. So I want to be proactive in warding off the depression and the autistic burnout demons, okay? I think basically all of my self-care rituals have become non-existent in the past few months. I mean, that's okay. Our lives have seasons too. It's never a straight line and we can get back on track at any time. As Hayley Williams once said during the pandemic, it ain't over yet. So today, let's go through 6 self-care tips for autistic people that have actually worked for me in the past when I have previously been consistent with them. Now, of course, I can't promise that these will work for you because we're all so different, but you can always give them a go. Take what you want from this and feel absolutely free to leave the rest. Please, please, please don't use this as another way to berate yourself for not being perfect. This is not the time for perfectionism. In fact, when is it ever the time for perfectionism? Perfectionism needs to get straight in the bin. That's the first self-care tip. It's not, but it should be. Burning yourself out, trying to hit a mile-long self-care to-do list is not what we're going for here. Just to reiterate, I promise that I do not do all of these things personally every day. And honestly, that doesn't matter. I'm still here. Tip number 1, meditation, mindfulness. We're told we should be doing it all of the time. There's some pretty good research on mindfulness-based interventions for autistic people. This systematic review looked at 37 studies and concluded, warning, not the best language here, mindfulness interventions have demonstrated positive outcomes, including alleviation of psychological distress. That's good. But then it says reduced behavioral problems and improved cognitive and social skills in individuals with ASD. It's giving we managed to normalize the autistic people, but at least they did acknowledge that it alleviated psychological distress because, you know, sometimes that's missing in studies about interventions for autistic people. It's like they seemed less autistic to the people observing them, so they must be happier. Not necessarily how it works. But anyway, I personally had a lot of resistance and kind of irritation when I thought about meditation and mindfulness. I didn't even bother trying it for the longest time. It felt woo-woo, it felt boring, and I felt like I don't have time for it. I don't have time to just sit down and do nothing. What are you talking about? I've got things to do. When I eventually did cave in and try it out for the first time, I basically had a panic attack because I felt all too aware of my breath and I just felt weird in my own body. I'm really selling this to you as my first self-care tip, aren't I? Wow, well done, Meg. No, it all kind of changed for me after I had my son. I had some health problems and it really got me down. So I had some talking therapy. It was the first time I'd ever had any sort of talking therapy. Wow, I don't know. Like I needed it years before that. Baby's first talking therapy in her early 20s. Okay. But it was the first time that anyone had told me that my negative thoughts and feelings about my health issues were normal, were okay, were valid, like something bad has happened and now you feel bad. Like you can be upset when upsetting things happen to you. Oh, right. And that idea of not fighting my feelings, that piece of acceptance was completely revolutionary to me. So once this philosophy of simply noticing how you feel, observing your thoughts, and not trying to tell yourself you're wrong for thinking them, once that clicked for me, mindfulness became more accessible. So I started meditating for just about 10 minutes each day, and I quickly realized that one, meditation is not about ridding yourself of all thoughts. I think that misunderstanding was what led me to that I'm gonna have a panic attack feeling. You're supposed to notice each thought. You can even thank your brain for it. Say, thanks brain, that's an interesting thought. And then, you take your focus back to your breath or whatever you're focusing on. And it doesn't matter if you have to do that 100 times, that's the point. That means you're doing it right. And secondly, from trying different types of meditation, I learned that body scan meditations are my favorite. Never thought I'd have a favorite type of meditation. So that's where you're kind of like guided through regions of your body and you focus on the sensations that you have in that area. I realized there's often this like pleasant little tingling going on. And autistic people can often struggle with something called interoception, so our ability to detect and interpret signals from our own body, things like hunger or even pain. And I wonder if that's not also why I enjoy the body scans so much. It's a reminder that I have a body. Maybe I'm not actually just a brain in a jar. And just in general, mindfulness meditations help to bring you down from fight or flight, to regulate your nervous system, and autistic burnout. I've got a video about the warning signs of autistic burnout here, but it's basically just nervous system burnout. So I think it can be really helpful for us. And if you're like me and you feel like you would do anything to avoid the horrors of autistic burnout, it might be worth giving it a go and seeing if it helps you. Now, if you don't know where to start with meditation, or if you've fallen out of the habit, I'd absolutely recommend checking out Headspace, who are very kindly sponsoring today's video. Now, as I say, I've not been doing too well. I've been very stressed and overwhelmed trying to juggle moving house with looking after my child and work, and that meant my self-care routine all but disappeared when I needed it the most. I completely let meditation slip for quite a while, but Headspace has been an excellent way to ease back into it. The wonderful thing about Headspace is you really can't use that I don't have time excuse. My brain absolutely loves that one. It's its favorite because you can literally do a 3-minute, even a 1-minute meditation. You're telling me you don't have 1 minute to spare in your day? I don't believe you. A 20-minute body scan is perfect when I'm lying in bed feeling anxious and can't sleep. For sleep, they also have wonderful sleep casts, like a podcast, but for sleep. They're like little bedtime stories, basically. Plus, they have white noise, green noise, pink noise, brown noise, basically every color noise that you could possibly dream of. They have over 1,000 guided meditations to choose from, which is a lot. And there's basically one for every scenario. There's a beginner meditation course, but also navigating injustice is an entire category. They also have an SOS section, which could be an incredible place to turn for you if you're experiencing a meltdown, emotional dysregulation, or you're just overwhelmed at the end of the day. Headspace have some lovely focus, music, and also soundscapes, which I play while I'm tucked away, scripting stuff. I love Watering Hole. I think that one is an unexpected fave, but there's also a creek one I use, and Campfire Crackles is a great seasonal option to keep ourselves cozy on dark, cold, lonely nights. Headspace are offering viewers of this channel an exclusive 60-day free trial. You can just use my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. I'd really recommend giving it a go. You have nothing to lose. You might as well use the free trial and see if you like it, see if you can get into it. Just 10 days of Headspace is proven to decrease stress and increase happiness. Thank you again to Headspace for making this video possible and for getting me back into meditation when I needed it the most, for sure. Still on the topic of mindfulness and meditation, I also really love ACT, Acceptance Commitment Therapy, which is a mindfulness-based therapy. I often recommend this book to people. It's The Happiness Trap. This was so helpful to me. I read it while I was on holiday once, on a family holiday, and I usually really struggle to be present in the moment and to enjoy holidays. My brain just kind of freaks out when I have free time and I don't really know where to put myself. So this book helped me to enjoy a holiday. Yay! And yeah, you can even look and see if you can find an ACT therapist in your area too, if you want to try a therapy that a lot of autistic people seem to really love and recommend. ACT is about mindfulness, but also working out what your values are and then acting in accordance with them, which I think can be quite a good fit for autistic people. We can often be quite purpose driven. Okay, number 2, doing brain dumps. Is that what I'm going to call this section? I feel like journaling might be a more elegant title, but I think doing brain brain dumps is more accurate for what I'm actually talking about. I think journaling has a lot of baggage. So this is the one self-care thing that through this whole chaotic period in my life, I've been fantasizing about doing again for so long. I keep imagining all the things that I will write about and all of the things that are there in the back of my mind that I know I probably need to work through. All right, let me explain. How do we take a brain dump? So I've been doing this kind of on and off since 2017. I would just open up my computer. I had this Word document, I'd go to the blank page, I'd put on a timer on Google. I think I did 15 minutes. I don't know. You could do anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes, however long you want. And I would just type, be completely stream of consciousness, no rules, just type. It would meander all over the place, be super, super messy. You know, you're not writing for anyone else, you're just writing for yourself. I'd work through emotions, I'd talk about things that had happened. Sometimes I'd kind of frame it as writing a letter to somebody if there was something I kind of wanted to say to somebody, but I knew I wouldn't be confident enough to say it in person, or I wanted to work through how I felt about it before I spoke to them. Sometimes it was kind of spooky. Things would then happen in real life that were as if that person had read what I'd written. I know there's absolutely nothing to that, but it was strange. I don't know, maybe I was sending out brain dump energy into the universe. I also found it really useful when I was kind of stuck on a decision, which happens to me quite a lot. I really struggle with making decisions. I think that's quite a common thing for autistic people. And it's interesting because when I have a decision to make and I don't know what to do, often my first instinct is not to do that. It's to talk to somebody else and get their opinion and give somebody a call. And while sometimes that can still be super helpful, and it's not like, you know, everyone in my life has useless advice, often I already kind of know, I think subconsciously, what I want to do, and I have the most information. I have more information than anybody else about that decision, and often I can work through it on my own, which feels pretty nice. I think sometimes deep down you do know what you want to do, and sometimes I find myself getting frustrated with the other person when they're giving me advice because I'm like, oh no, what you're saying is wrong, that isn't what I should do. And it's like, why are you asking them then if you already know what you want to do? So sometimes I think it makes more sense to have a conversation with yourself about it. Often when I'd start, I'd actually read what I'd written the previous day. You could leave a longer gap if you wanted to and like read through what you wrote on the same day the previous week or previous month or whatever you wanted to do. And what was interesting was how quickly my emotions about something could change, and I could feel really strongly one way on a particular day, and then I guess I'd wake up in a different mood on another day, and my perspective would be quite different. And again, made me appreciate mindfulness and, you know, just noticing how you feel and not buying into it as if it's like this ultimate truth, because it's like weather, it shifts. And then I also noticed how often the same feelings would come back, but they would feel like the first time I'd ever felt them before. And sometimes I'd be really concerned by those emotions, like, oh, why am I suddenly feeling like this? This is new. But then I could go back and see, actually, no, last month you said these things too, Meg. You have felt like this before. Then a few days later, you were fine again. So it is normal to kind of cycle through emotions. I would also sometimes go through and like highlight insights that I found interesting, and sometimes I'd learn things about myself, like, oh, that might be something that I want to do and try. And in this lovely little book, which is Self-Care for Autistic People by Megan, Dr. Megan, who is not me, I'm not a doctor, Megan Anna Neff, talks about harnessing the power of effective worrying. And I think this is something that I did intuitively while doing these brain dumps. Worry often gets a bad reputation, but it can serve a purpose. Worrying allows you to anticipate potential challenges, analyze risks, and problem solve, which I think is an excellent point. However, when worry becomes overwhelming and consumes your thoughts, it can negatively impact your emotional well-being. The key is to worry effectively and productively. Yes, that is possible. She recommends worrying in a structured and intentional way, creating a worry period. So you choose a designated time of about 10 to 20 minutes. This will be the time when you dedicate your full attention to addressing worries. In this time, you write down your worries, and then you break worries into tasks. As you list your worries, distinguish between those you can control and those you cannot. For the worries within your control, create actionable steps to address each concern. Transforming your worries into concrete actions makes them more manageable. And then she also recommends that when worries come up during the day, you can then practice mindfulness and kind of just notice the worry, but you know you'll actually deal with it within your worry period. So you can kind of relax in the moment because you've designated that worry time. Because yeah, sometimes worry does serve a purpose, and I think that's a really interesting way to think about it. So self-care tip number 3 is stimming. Embracing stimming, welcoming stimming back into your life as an autistic person. Stimming is short for self-stimulatory behavior. I do have this other video which I'll leave linked about all different types of stimming. If you watch that, you may realize that you actually already stim more than you think. A lot of people in the comments felt that way. I just think a lot of the stims that we have are maybe more subtle, like smaller movements, because we've maybe been made to feel ashamed for stimming in the past, or we've just noticed that other people, most of the people around us, don't seem to be stimming, and that doesn't seem to be socially appropriate in quotation marks behavior. But if it's not hurting anyone and if it's not hurting you, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But learning to embrace stimming can be a difficult journey. I have a video somewhere on my channel where I was reacting to TikToks from autistic people, and there was one where someone was stimming in lots of different ways, and I shared when I was watching that actually it makes me feel uncomfortable. It feels to me like I'm watching something that I shouldn't be seeing, because it's so ingrained to me that that's something you do in private. That's something that you don't let people see, because I'd been made to feel embarrassed about hand flapping. I did a lot of hand flapping and flapping books as a child, and I was made to feel ashamed about that. So it may take a while to kind of remind yourself that actually it's just somebody moving their body. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. And if it can help you to concentrate, and if it can help you to regulate your emotions and your sensory experience, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, of course. If you do want to kind of practice stimming again, I'd maybe recommend trying to do it when you're on your own first, just because it might be a little bit easier. You might feel a bit less self-conscious. I think rocking back and forth can be a really nice way to start. It's a nice easy movement and it's very soothing. As I say, check out that video for lots of different ways to stim. I'd also maybe have a think about how you can integrate more movement into your daily life, into your work. So for me, I've started sometimes scripting my videos instead of just being sat at the desk typing, by moving around, sometimes flapping an object, and that helps me to concentrate more and be more creative and think of ideas. For a long time, I think I kind of internalized that I need to be a grown-up. I need to have good posture. I'm not good at that one either. And sit at the desk and type and look serious. But actually that doesn't lead to the best outcomes for everybody. So I let myself now pace around and speak out my video script with some notes into my phone and then type that up. And sometimes I still feel a bit like I'm doing it the wrong way or going the long way round, and I should be able to just type and the words should flow, but they don't always. And who cares how you get what you need to do done? Why not do it in a way that's easier and also more fun for you? Who wants to be sitting at a desk all day? I don't. It hurts my neck, probably because I don't sit right. And I've heard that when the Love on the Spectrum crew came to interview Abby, one of the cast members, for the first time ever, she really struggled with it, and her mom thought, oh, there's no way they're going to want her to appear on the show. There's no way they're going to come back because this has gone so badly. But actually they did end up coming back, and they said, this time we're going to let Abby move around and walk around while she speaks to us, because that's what's natural for her. That helps her to focus and concentrate, and it went really well, and she's been on every season of the show since then. Yeah, so maybe have a think about how you can add stimming into your life. It really helps me personally to enter flow states, and I just get this lovely light floaty feeling. It's one of my favorite feelings in the world. Tip number 4 is very closely linked. It's exercise. The dreaded exercise. Exercise is another thing that I never thought I would consistently do. As you probably know, I was absolutely disastrous in PE. Lots of PE trauma there. I'm not a sporty person at all. I'm not a fan of team sports at all. And yes, my coordination is not great. It's not great, and there's lots of video evidence of it. And that's fine. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. But I never thought as an adult that I would get into exercise. I didn't think that that was for me. And honestly, if my parents hadn't been into going to the gym and doing weightlifting, I'm not sure I ever would have got into it, which would have been a real shame. You know, don't buy into the idea that something is not for you. Even if you're like me and you're kind of like nerdy and bookish and you can't imagine yourself ever setting foot in a gym. Like, exercise is for everybody. Exercising as an adult doesn't have to be like PE, and you don't have to do team sports if you don't want to. Thank goodness, no netball to be found in my adult life. Yay! I've actually found that weightlifting is great for me, and I've been pretty consistent with it for about 8 years now. At first, it was really foreign and difficult. I really struggled with learning the movements because of the dyspraxia, but now I have that muscle memory. I think it took me a bit longer than it might have taken somebody else for it to all click in, but it has now. It's just very calming. It's very repetitive. You're doing the same motion. I write down how much weight I lifted and how many reps I did each time, and I can be quite methodical about it, and then I can watch the weight go up as I get stronger. And I do really love getting stronger as well. It has practical usage, particularly when you've got a child. There's a lot of heavy things to pick up. It's really helpful. It makes me feel really connected and in my own body again. I think similar to the body scan meditations, I don't feel so much like a brain in a jar. And I get to listen to music that I love that makes me feel energized. And I think it's kind of like stimming in a way. I think that's probably a good way to maybe reframe exercise as an autistic person. Maybe think about what kind of stimmy movements you like to do or what you enjoy doing as a child and do that as your exercise. I've heard quite a lot of other autistic people really like weightlifting, but that might not be the thing for you. You might prefer running, you might prefer swimming. Swimming is super stimmy for me. I love swimming. One thing that I was actually always quite good at exercise-wise: roller skating, ice skating, dancing. Do the Hayley Williams over yet workout routine. I'm glad I remembered that exists. Even just going for a walk and swinging your arms about could be a kind of stimmy way to exercise. Again, listening to some music that you enjoy, or even an audiobook. Whatever you have to do to get yourself to do it. And you could say, I'm just going to do 5 minutes, I'm just going to do 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then stop if I don't feel like doing it anymore. I think that can be a useful technique for autistic inertia. You have to actually let yourself stop though. If you want to stop at the end of that period, you might not want to, which is one of the good things about having a monotropic, kind of cognitively sticky brain, is you might actually be more likely to want to continue after that point. But if you do want to stop, you got to let yourself stop. Otherwise, next time you won't believe yourself. Don't berate yourself if it's difficult in the beginning. And again, don't tell yourself the story that it's not for you, that you're not the kind of person who exercises. You have a body, you're allowed to move it. Tip number 5 is to delegate some tasks if you're feeling overwhelmed. In this book, the Autistic Burnout Workbook, which I absolutely love and would recommend, this is also by Dr. Megan Anna Neff, who is not me. I wish I'd written this book. That would be really cool. There is a section called Outsource Mindfully. If you have the budget, consider paying a company to take on tasks for you. If not, you might reach out to your social support network to explore potential tasks that can be delegated to alleviate some of your demands. So this is a recommendation for if you're in burnout or if you're trying to avoid autistic burnout. Some of the examples are house cleaning, food services, childcare, getting a virtual assistant, gardening. If you have a garden is another option of things you could outsource. I think for me, it's always been a bit of a block of like hiring anybody to do cleaning because it feels a bit posh. I didn't know anybody really in my life who had hired a cleaner. It just feels like something that, you know, I should be able to do. I shouldn't need help with. But that's internalized ableism. And you know what? There are other people sometimes who can do these things better and faster than you can, and then you can use your energy to do other things. Obviously, it's a privilege if you are able to afford these things, but maybe there are friends and family you can ask for help if not. And I often think back to this framework that I read in a book called Do Less by Kate Northrup a few years ago. That book, I think, had some slightly woo-woo stuff about periods and the moon. I can't quite remember what. That bit wasn't really for me, but this one framework that she had has really stuck with me. Asking yourself the following questions about a task. Does this need to be done is the first question, because sometimes there are things hanging out on your to-do list that don't even need to be done, or sometimes they could be done an easier way. If you're a perfectionist like me, maybe sometimes you make something 1,000 steps longer than it actually has to be. Then you ask yourself, does this need to be done by me? Because sometimes someone else in your household can do it. Maybe sometimes you need to give other people in your life a bit more credit and trust that they will be able to figure it out and they will be able to do it, and you don't need to take on everything. And then finally, does it need to be done right now? Maybe something's hanging out on your to-do list every day when actually you could probably do it a couple of months down the line and it's just taking up unnecessary space in your head. Another question that you might want to add at the start is, do I want to do this? Because if something's fun, then it probably is worth doing, even if it doesn't necessarily need to be done. I think sometimes asking other people for help is part of accepting that you're autistic, accepting that autism is a disability, and all autistic people, according to the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria, have support needs. Tip number 6 is perhaps the most important one. It is rest. I sometimes fall into this pattern, maybe you can recognize it in yourself too, of only allowing myself to rest or only not feeling guilty about resting if I have absolutely undoubtedly pushed myself past my limits. So say I've pulled an all-nighter to get some work done, then I might think, oh yeah, you're entitled to some rest. I think often it's a perfectionist thing. Like I never feel like I've done enough work, so I always just want to push harder. And there's always a reason in my head why, no, you can't sit and read your book for a bit because you didn't do this well enough, or you didn't do enough of this. And I kind of maybe hold myself to an impossible standard to earn the rest. And sometimes it's a bit of internalized ableism, like, oh, it took you a long time to transition into that task. You didn't get enough done as a result, so therefore you don't deserve rest anymore. And also I look at other people in my life who are not autistic and compare myself to them and think, well, they don't seem to need as much rest as I do, so therefore I, again, do not deserve it. In self-care for autistic people, there's a section about prioritizing rest to avoid burnout, and it opens with, did you know that burnout is one of the causes of depression and suicidality for autistic people? Do you know what one of the causes of burnout is? Not getting sufficient rest. Autistic people need a lot of rest. Indeed, the sheer amount needed can be frustrating. Yeah, and I need a lot of sleep as well, which I also find frustrating. Yet the alternative, a debilitating burnout, is even less appealing. So one of the best things you can do for your emotional health is to prioritize rest. And something that Dr. Neff talks about is how you might need to grieve the fact that you need more rest. And you know what? Sometimes I tell myself stories in my head that other people in my life don't need to rest as much. You know what? They probably are resting. I just don't see those moments, you know, and then I assume that everybody is just working constantly, but that isn't the case. And regardless if they are, it isn't healthy. So I don't want to replicate that. So I think a really nice idea is to create a little safe place in your house that you can go to rest. It could just be in your bedroom. You could create a little reading nook if you have space for it. You could go on your balcony if you like to be outside, a little corner of your garden if you have one, whatever works best for you, and make rest and recovery time a non-negotiable part of your day and something that everybody in your life knows about and respects. I think it's very, very reasonable to ask for, you know, at least 10 minutes of peace and quiet every day. I think most people in your life should respect that. Maybe during this time you want to do a bit of a sensory detox, especially if you have quite a demanding job or you've been masking all day. Maybe you want to lie in the dark, have a blackout blind, put on an eye mask, put in some earplugs or ear defenders, just kind of block it all out and give yourself the space to safely shut down and just have as little input coming in as possible. Or maybe during your rest period, you might want to do activities that relax you or that energize you. Creator Hayley Honeyman has some lovely videos. There's a short and also a long form video about creating a meltdown kit, which I think are really great. I'll leave them linked down below. And she recommends putting together a little basket of things that you like and incorporating items for all of your senses. If you're struggling to think of sensory things that you enjoy, there are some really nice illustrations online for autistic glimmers. But some examples for visual input, you might want to have a lava lamp in your little nook, some fairy lights, candles, photos of people that you love, or, you know, posters connected to your special interests, things that just make you happy to look at. Or maybe you want absolutely nothing. Maybe you want it to be super minimalist and free of clutter. It's up to you. You could have some plants, some natural things like seashells. You could sit in front of an actual fire if you have one, or you could play one of those campfire videos. I'm sure there are some on YouTube. You can also get them on most streaming services. For smell, again, you might want absolutely nothing. Or if you like scented candles, you could burn a scented candle. Or incense. Incense makes me sneeze. I don't like it. Essential oils or Lush products that you really enjoy the smell of. For touch, you might want to get changed into something cozy like pajamas. I'm currently wearing pajama pants because I'm always wearing pajama pants. Weighted blanket. You can also get weighted lap blankets that you can use while you're sitting at your desk or something like that. I want one of them. I also saw that you can get a weighted turtle and I was like, that is a good idea. So weighted turtle, For your rest nook, 10 out of 10 self-care advice. Maybe you could have a hot water bottle to keep you cozy, especially if you're struggling with the seasonal depression like me, or you might need a fan to keep you cool, or ice can be super grounding. At Lush, they also have face masks and eye masks, eye patches, I don't know, jelly things that you put on your eyes. And I bought one as a gift once, and it was so relaxing. It was so refreshing because it was super cold, and particularly when I've got a headache, I find that really, really soothing and nice. And you might also want to have a selection of fidgets if you enjoy using them. Sound, you might want to listen to some soundscapes or an audiobook. You could have a comfort book, maybe a book you really enjoyed as a child. You might want to listen to songs. You might want to listen to an angry song. If it's been a hard day, Ignorance by Paramore, that's my favorite angry song. Hayley Williams is coming up a lot in a self-care video, and that makes complete sense to me. It makes complete sense to me. Have you heard her new album? It's great. Maybe you want to lie and sing, listen to your own voice. Maybe you want to talk to yourself, that's fine, that's allowed. Maybe you want to do vocal stims, maybe you want to cry, that can be super cathartic. For taste, you want to keep some comforting foods or drinks there. Maybe you can have a mini fridge in the nook. I don't know, there are no rules here. Or you can keep like individually packaged snacks, like some sort of bar there, some safe foods. I think thinking about things that made you feel happy or comforted as a child can be a great way to decide what you want in your little rest zone. And you could use this space to do some reading or to engage in one of your special interests. I'd say probably pick a special interest that is like low stakes and low pressure, because while running this channel is definitely a special interest for me, there is a lot of pressure. So it's not always the most relaxing thing, as much as I do still love it. So maybe for me, it might be better to pick something like playing The Sims, which I loved doing as a child. Or maybe you enjoy puzzles or Lego or crocheting. And I'd probably recommend leaving your phone out of it, leaving your phone on airplane mode. And maybe this would be a nice thing to incorporate into your bedtime routine to wind down, depending on what activities you're doing. And this shouldn't just be a special treat thing, a reward for if you've done enough work that day. This should be seen as an essential part of your self-care routine, as essential as things like brushing your teeth. Because pushing yourself until you're so drained that you can't do anything is not good. And it's also not even productive. Taking a little bit of time each day to kind of reset and recharge and make sure you're okay is kind of an investment in, your long-term health and mental health. So I think all of us, me and you, we must commit to giving ourselves time to rest every day and it being non-negotiable. And maybe you could have a safe word with people in your life for when you maybe need to retreat and go into your recovery zone. And as a final bonus one, I think learning more about autism is a form of self-care. I think that's been a major form of self-care over the last few years for me. I've learned so much about myself that I never could have learned. I thought I was a self-aware person, never could have learned. I could have done all the journaling, all the brain dumping in the world, and I would not have understood myself to the extent that I do now. And I think continuing to engage with content from autistic people and read books by autistic people is super helpful. Sometimes I need to be reminded, like, oh yeah, I'm autistic. I'm surrounded by neurotypicals all the time. I need to be reminded, like, oh yeah, maybe I need to do things slightly differently, and maybe that's okay. I think particularly if it's been a while since you were diagnosed, sometimes, yeah, you do need to remind yourself, and that can be a form of self-care and can really help with the internalized ableism that can come creeping back in. I would absolutely recommend all three of these books: The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris, The Autistic Burnout Workbook, and Self-Care for Autistic People by Dr. Megan Anna Neff. If you had to only get one, I would absolutely recommend The Autistic Burnout Workbook. I think this is incredible. I'll leave them all linked in the description. I do also have this video about accommodations for autistic people. There is a huge list of apps that might be super helpful for you, and also accommodations that you could ask for at work, as well as a section about accommodations for school or college or whatever you're doing in education. And I also have this one full of tips for coping with demand avoidance and for getting started on tasks. If you've already seen everything over here on the main channel and you want to support the channel, if you enjoy videos like this, if you want them to keep coming, I do have 31 exclusive videos now over on Patreon, and I also have 20 podcast episodes. You get 2 new videos every month, and you can vote for which one you'd like to see on the poll. The latest one was me reacting to the Jubilee video, Do All Autistic People Think the Same?
I don't know, it just comes naturally to me. I just say, hey, let's be friends. And they're like, yeah, and it happens.
yeah, I don't know, maybe let's be friends can work pretty well. I feel like when I was about 8 years old, I went up to somebody, I was like, can I be your friend? And she said yes, and we were friends. And then she left the school. And the next one will be me reading and reviewing Ellie Middleton's book, How to Be You. I have a few other book review / reading vlog videos up on there already. And if you're looking for more community and connection in your life, if you want to chat to like-minded people, you are welcome to join the Discord server, which is available to all Patreon tiers. You can share your success stories, answer the question of the day, you can get some peer support with your mental health, and we also sometimes do fun events like play Fall Guys together. There'll be a poll up soon to choose the next date. If we've already selected the next date for playing Fall Guys, I'll put it on screen. Remember, you can try Headspace entirely for free for 60 days if you click the link in the description or use the QR code on screen. Thank you so much for watching. This was a video that I really needed to make right now. It was a selfish one, if you couldn't tell. I'm so grateful to have you here to talk to. I will see you in my next video very, very soon, and let me know what you do for self-care in the comments. There were already some lovely answers to that question over on the community tab. Bye.